800 miles from the Antarctic Circle, isolated in the freezing South Atlantic Ocean, the windswept shores of the Falkland Islands remain one of the most inaccessible places on the planet. The hardy islanders, descendants of English pioneers, Scottish sheep farmers and Scandinavian sailors, are proud of their European roots. But living 8,000 miles from the UK has helped create a unique way of life on the Falklands. It's winter, and many of the island's penguin species have headed back out to sea.
I've got some fish for George, right?
But vet Steve Pointing has come across one that hasn't quite made it.
You'd like more, wouldn't you? You thought that was enough?
And there's a flurry of activity around Stanley as people get ready to say an emotional goodbye to the Reverend Richard Hines and his wife Jen. Their time on the islands is almost at an end.
It is all about Jen and Richard, saying thank you, saying farewell, shedding a few tears, I expect. I should imagine there's going to be a few of that. Probably from me as well.
Stanley, on East Falkland, is the island's capital, and it's been the Reverend Richard Hines' home for 7 years. But now, he and his wife Jen are in the process of packing up, ready to move back to the UK.
I've been so careful with this till now. That is the way.
And that.
Part of me wants to be back in the UK, because that is home. That was where I grew up and everything. But thinking about all the things I'm not going to have anymore, thinking of going back, the M25, it's awful. Thinking just all that traffic on the road and the loss of just so much open space.
Today, Richard is taking a flight to visit 2 of his parishioners in West Falkland. There are just 4 small planes that run from the tiny airport, and they are the main means of transport to the outlying islands. Traditionally, farms on the Falklands were large sheep ranches, owned by non-islanders living abroad. By the 1970s, this form of tenant farming was causing many people to leave the islands looking for better opportunities. So the government decided to step in. They bought and subdivided the larger farms and sold the land back to the locals. The 26,000 acres of Pebble Island remains one of the few farms still owned and leased from the UK.
Come here! Come on, guys, come on!
Despite never owning the farm, Irina and her partner Raymond have connections to the land that go back over 100 years.
You got to come get some meat? Hey, are you watching? You're not very interested. You're already full. Get your little brown eyes on this, look. She is. Right, he'll dive after it now. Hey, what boy, you looking? You looking? Here it is. Well, you've been here as long as we have, you're very familiar with them.
Is it safe to approach?
Yes, it's safe to approach.
You've got my breakfast ready, I see. What have I got to do?
How hungry I
am.
Yes.
Irina has been here for 24 years, and Raymond has lived on Pebble all of his life. But at the end of the month, their tenancy is up.
In 2 weeks' time, they're leaving Pebble Island, and they're going to make their way to Stanley. And that'll be a farewell to this place that they know and love and that their heart has been rooted in for all these years. So I just felt deep down inside me I wanted to pop and visit them and say, thinking of you. I think they would like to have stayed on a few more years if they could have had their perfect choice, so to speak, but it hasn't worked out for them for all kinds of reasons. But it's going to be such a massive change to leave lovely, remote, beautiful Pebble Island behind.
Oh, we can just sit them here anyway, Richard. So we can just put these here. You just have a cup of tea now. Would you like a cup of tea?
Wonderful. So what have you got still to do?
5 generations of stuff we've got to pack up, photographs. And
So your family goes back 5 generations on Pebble Island?
yeah.
1800 and something?
I can't remember.
1860, wasn't it, or before that? Old man Betts came here with the gauchos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be strange. I was brought up here, worked here over 48 years, close on 50.
No, I don't like the idea of it. It's scary.
It is a massive change, and so you have to kind of you have to consciously and deliberately be a bit gentle with yourself. You to recognise that you don't know how you're going to feel, so don't be surprised if you feel yourself getting snappy or you're lost or you don't quite know what you're doing, you're losing all sense of time. Complete disorientation, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's a bit of a worry, really.
I think there are going to be sharp moments of real loss and of grief. I can draw on my own feelings maybe to try and understand how they might be feeling, but there's a lot of difference between me spending 7 years here and them spending a lifetime on Pebble Island. So.
Every summer on the Falklands, a colony of around 1,000 pairs of king penguins come to the archipelago to breed during the warmer months. By the time winter approaches, the chicks are fattened up and resilient enough to be left alone while their parents return to the sea. They come back to shore once every few months to feed their young. It's a chilly morning on the outskirts of Stanley, and local vet Steve Pointing is casting his professional eye over the penguins in the care of the Falklands Conservation Team.
We've got George. Fairly fat one. Yep. And then we've got June. He's the skinniest of the three, perhaps. Yeah, and Cullum. These two new birds, they came from Pebble Island and were the same as George. They'd swum through some oil when they'd been out fishing.
I mean, they both look pretty healthy, don't they?
Yeah, they seem pretty lively and alert. You can see quite clearly.
Oh, right, come on. Come around this way. Come around this way.
Nathan McNally works with Falklands Conservation as a volunteer and has been monitoring the penguins' progress.
Yeah, it's the right eye. It was a wee bit goopy, but seems to be okay.
Yeah.
The largest of the three is George, who's been with them for 7 weeks, and Nathan is hoping that he's almost fit enough to return to the sea.
We're going to have a look at his right eye, which has just got a little bit of a discharge from it, but doesn't look like it's anything too serious, but we'll just have a look in better light. Right.
Here we go.
Let's have a look at this eye, shall we? Let's see what your eye looks like. Well, the actual eye itself is fine. It's just got a little bit mucky on the feathers around the eye. So oh, you don't want that, don't you? Right. He doesn't like it very much, but...
He was found on Surf Bay, which is a small beach close to Stanley. And he was brought in with some oil down one side of him. And we don't know how he got it. It's probably from a ship, from its bilges or something like that. So it's just bad luck on George's behalf for getting it.
And obviously there may well be others that have also been covered in oil, and we probably will never see those if they don't come up onto a beach where somebody... Yeah, absolutely.
Just use fairy liquid to wash away all the oils. That process strips the natural oils. So while we got him here, essentially, it's so he can start preening and recharging his feathers with their natural oils that keep them waterproof and ultimately warm in the water. Yeah, the final stage is taking him to the pool for that last swim and just checking to make sure he is really ready to go out and return to the wild. Hey! Jackpot. And if only he had smelly vision.
How many times a day do you have to change your trousers?
Normally not too often.
With the abundance of spectacular flora and fauna all around the islands, it's heaven for wildlife enthusiasts. And over in Stanley, Steve Massam has made a living out of it. He's worked here for 13 years as the Falkland Islands resident animal artist and taxidermist.
I always describe taxidermy as tailoring in reverse, basically. You've got the suit, you've just got to make a body to fit it. I've always had an interest in natural history from a very early age. When I was about 6 or 7, my parents can remember me finding the boxes of bones under the bed. And the taxidermy really just come as an extension, really, me wanting to preserve as much of the specimen as I possibly could.
Steve's long-term project is creating a diorama scene for the museum, which will show the island's unique bird life.
Instead of just having individual specimens mounted on a small wooden base or something, a diorama portrays the habitat in which the specimens would be living. it's, you know, it's got to be good for the museum, it's got to be good for the wildlife of the Falklands as well.
He's been adding to his collection ever since he came to the islands, and these days everyone knows who to ring if they find a potential specimen.
If I get a call and they say, well, I've got a black-throated finch, or it could be an albatross, dead seal, and they ask if I want it or if the museum wants it, and you know, what to do with it. And the best thing to do is just, if it's something small, just to put it in the deep freeze. I think I did a swallow that was in the deep freeze for about 32 years, you know, so they can be kept for a long time.
Over in the new museum itself, it's all go. They're moving to a new, much larger site in the dockyard.
Will this one go on there? And then you could take that one out.
After months of preparation, they're starting to pack up 200 years of the island's history.
OK. That could definitely go with this next one.
Maybe these two, yeah.
The museum director, Leona Roberts, has worked here for 12 years and knows the story behind every exhibit in the building.
This used to be an Argentine bunker. This used to actually be somebody's home. There were sheets of tin, just as you would find them out and about all around the camp, and lots of little bits inside, including, you know, the guitar that's in there, and letters from people in Argentina, and just all sorts of random things that, you know, you do still find them even now. And then this really random and disturbing travelling dentist chair, which was pedal-powered. And according to some people who still remember it being used, it was used, I think, as late as the early 70s, that it was fine if you went to see the dentist early in the day, but by the end of the day, you know, his leg was getting tired, and so you'd hear the drill sort of slowing down and winding up. Doesn't bear thinking about. We are keepers of the island's heritage, really. It's an enormous responsibility, and actually just making this first move into packing has kind of brought it home even more. You know, moving house is a stressful thing. Moving museums is something else entirely.
.5, 96.5 FM and 530 medium wave. This is Falklands Radio, putting the unity in community.
In a moment, we'll hear Richard Hines on his last Simply Classical here on Falklands Radio.
During his years on the islands, Richard has regularly presented a radio show with producer Monica Limburn.
Good evening and welcome. My name is Richard Hines, and sadly this will be the final Simply Classical presentation I make before my wife Jen and I bid farewell to the islands on Friday morning and return to the UK. To mark this occasion, I've chosen to play pieces of music which have found a special place in my heart, because they stunned me when I first heard them, and because their impact has never really worn off since, a sort of metaphor, if you like, for the effect that the Falkland Islands have had on me since we arrived nearly 7 years ago. My thanks this evening go to Monica, and for all the times in these past 7 years she's helped me present Simply Classical. And thank you for sharing this final evening of music with me, and thank you for sharing your islands with me.
There we are.
Done.
Done.
Really good. Nice?
Yeah, that's it, Richard.
Give us a kiss.
Oh, bless you.
All around Stanley, people are preparing to say goodbye to Richard and Jen. After his final Sunday service, they're throwing a farewell party in the town hall. It's a traditional bring and share event, so everyone is doing their bit. Close friend Brenda Burnson wants to make sure the guests of honour know how much they've meant to the community.
I'm going to be a little bit vain here and say that they're probably extra special to me because they're my spiritual parents. They're the ones that have led me and guided me and taught me. And they've just come to mean so much. I'm sorry they're leaving.
Across town, 9-year-old Hugh Lilly and his little brother Oscar are also keen to help out.
We once went to their house to show the expedition to South Georgia and the Arctic, and had dinner there, and it was really nice. Yeah, hope they enjoy them. Do you have a look?
Government House, they're marking the occasion in a more formal manner. This evening, Richard and Jen have been invited to an official farewell ceremony. With the Governor away on business, Deputy Sandra Tyler-Hayward is in charge of proceedings.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I may interrupt your conversations for a short while, Richard has become a real part of Falklands community, and he's made it his job to get to know everyone, and he's been there for everyone in good times and in bad, and we're really going to miss you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me the greatest honour to do this, really. Richard, Falklands veterans want to make you an honorary member of SAMA.
The icing on the cake was Richard being told he's been made an honorary member of SAMA. Now, people who don't know that, that's the South Atlantic Medal Association. So they're the veterans of 1982. And to be made an honorary member of that association is just mind-blowing. It is such a compliment. And I have to say, there was a couple who came up and they said, I've been thinking of several things I wanted to say to you. He said, but it's crystallised down into one word: stay. And I mean, part of us love to stay, but we know it's not possible. So but it's nice being told.
Well, thank you.
Right, let's see what you're like with the water today.
At the Penguin Rehabilitation Centre, Nathan and the island's vet, Steve, need to see if George the King Penguin is ready to return to the sea.
Okay, George.
Before he takes a dip into the icy water, he's fed his daily ration of fish.
Yeah, so these are called rock cod locally.
And we're putting them in head first because that's the best way for them to go down to the throat.
They don't seem to have an off switch when it comes to eating.
You'd like more, wouldn't you? Yeah, you thought that wasn't enough?
Yeah, he's pretty close to being released back into the wild, so we'll pop him in the pool and see if he wants to go in, and it'll be a good test to see if he's ready or not.
Let's give it a go then and see what he thinks of the water.
Come on, George. Just come on. Well, he's still a reluctant swimmer.
Do you not like it in there?
No. You can see the water's beating off his front there quite nicely. So he's getting there.
You can definitely see the beading down here, can't you?
Yeah.
As well,
It's starting, but I think he's still not quite ready.
No. He's not fully waterproof yet, so when he goes into the water, water goes through the top layer of feathers and then gets down to skin level. But normally, if he was completely waterproof, as he would be naturally, he'd have a layer of waterproof feathers on the top, which would stop water getting down below that level. And so the water's cold, and it gets to his skin, and that makes him cold as well. So that's why he's a bit reluctant to stay in there at the moment.
He's probably a week behind where we would have liked him to have been, but it's better to be safer than sorry.
So we're on the move again.
Yep.
For now, George is remaining on the island with his friends June and Callum until he's fully waterproofed.
Whoop. Careful there, George.
At the site of the new museum in the heart of Stanley, they are still a month away from reopening for spring. Inside, volunteers are unpacking over 5,000 historical objects that have been transported across town without a single breakage. There's a lot to do, and everyone is getting stuck in a uniquely Falklands fashion.
Everybody has goose wings in their houses. They're most easy to get into corners and like little delicate things like that. I've always used.
After years of preparation, artist come taxidermist Steve is putting the finishing touches to his diorama of the island's wildlife. The pride of place is the king penguin.
The king penguin is perhaps seen as the iconic penguin of the Falkland Islands, and yeah, this one, unfortunately, this one got caught in a fishing net, and it was in a bit of a mess when it was found, when it was discovered, but fortunately I managed to make a decent specimen out of it. It's nice to finally, after about 12 years, I suppose, it's been waiting to do something like this, and it's nice to see it finally come to fruition.
At Stanley Airport, Irina and Raymond are arriving. They've left their home on Pebble for the final time and have said goodbye to the farm that Raymond and his family ran for generations. Coming from an island with a population of just 5 to Stanley, where over 2,000 people are now living, is a daunting prospect. But they have brought with them a very special cargo to help them feel at home. 14 of Irina's favourite hens have come to start a new life with them in Stanley. Irina and Raymond's new house isn't ready. For now, they're going to stay with Irina's 91-year-old mother, Clara.
I've got some things from the container. Can I put them in the garden shed?
Yes,
or whatever.
yes.
Okay, right out. I shall go and get them. How are we doing, girls? Oh wow, 1 egg there. Oh well, that's all right. We'll just leave that there. Look, there's lots of nice things to pick out here, but don't eat the flowers though, because I don't think my mum would be very happy if you eat the flowers. I shall say ta-ta for now.
Oh yeah, okay.
Okay. See you later. See you later. Yeah.
See you later. Must have been a terrible wrench, you know, and to be flying away over the land and looking down. And I know when I fly over and look, I always feel quite sad that I'm leaving the place. So must have been really terrible.
On the west edge of Stanley is the Sappers Hill housing development, near several dangerous minefields left from the 1982 war. The safe flat land below the hill is in the process of being developed into 41 new homes. Most of the new housing will cater for people attracted to the Falklands by jobs in the oil industry. But one plot will become a new home for Raymond and Irina.
Not much of a house yet, is it? Hopefully in about 3 or 4 months it'll look a bit more like a house.
Few trees grow on the islands, so the majority of houses are built from flat packs imported from the UK. For now, all Irina has to survey are the muddy foundations.
This here is going to be my back porch. We'll have a garage on there. Up that side will be the sitting room and another bedroom there. Hopefully, another 6 months, we'll have a house. Yeah, complete change from Pebble Island. I really miss my pet sheep. Seeing my pet sheep come down over the hill in the morning, yes, miss them. Both our ancestors have been there for over 100 years, in fact. Some of our great-great-grandparents and great-great-uncles and aunts. So it's you know, Pebble Island was sort of like our real home. But never mind, these things happen, and you just get on with it and go somewhere else and do something else. Sooner or later, I'll have a house.
Sunday morning in Stanley. At the world's most southerly cathedral, it's the last day in the job for Reverend Richard Hines, the island's 29th incumbent.
Last Sunday service. Feels a little bit strange. I tried to imagine what it might be like, but we'll take it as it comes. You've made it. We've lived on the islands for 7 years, and during the course of that time there have been periods when I felt so completely at home here and haven't been able to imagine what it would be like to go away, and I haven't, frankly, wanted to leave. Be assured that wherever we're serving God in the future, we will have carried you with us in our hearts, and we'll continue to remember and pray for you, as I'm sure you'll pray for us. So to God Almighty, Father, Son and Holy Spirit, be praise and glory forever. Amen.
Fabulous.
That's my wife. I don't recall ever walking out of a service and being clapped. a bit like being a Wimbledon champion. You know, the first thing you want to do is clamber over the pews and go and see your wife. And I was keen that Jen should come out and just walk with me, because from beginning to end, she's been my closest friend and supporter, and I couldn't have really done what I've done in 7 years here without Jen being beside me.
Being married to a vicar means that you do have opportunities to meet a whole range of people right across the board. Most people, they'll sort of say, oh, sorry to see you go, and then they'll pick up and they'll be fine. But there'll be one or two, I think, it will be most difficult, you know, because we've been, you know, hopefully we've been part of their lives.
Thank you for everything you did around the time when Dad died. I'll always picture you in your boiler suit.
Very good. I put you first prize. The Falkland Islands is a unique place. There's spectacular scenery, gorgeous views, space and quietness that gets into your very soul. Beautiful people and moments that we've shared. Sad times and glad times. Nothing but gratitude for having been here for 7 years.